alright. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. Yeah, it's Saturday. It's a Saturday. It's a Saturday. We're a little late, but it had to be that way. Yo, it's gonna be alright. Yeah. It's the Urban Therapy with Son show. We gonna do it like this. It's gonna be alright today. Oh, are you really ready? Well, you might be, you might not, but hold on to your hats. Hold on to your seats. Strap up on your seat belt. This gonna be heartfelt. Today on the Urban Therapy with Son show, we talking about black people and boarding homes and group homes. Black people and boarding homes and group homes. Now, when you talk about boarding homes, you're not talking about the way that black people are traditionally taken care of, or should I say, traditionally educated and brought up. You know, most people are brought up around their families, you know, by their mom and their dad, or whether it's a single family or whatever, and they normally get educated in the public school system or Catholic school or another kind of private school. So it's something that we are familiar with on that side, with our tradition of our conditioning and our upbringing. But when you meet somebody who has actually gone away to school, and if they have been educated away from their families, you know, not necessarily raised by their mom or their dad in the greater parts of the year, you see it makes a difference in the way that they see life. Their perspective is different. But you have to ask yourself, what are some of the circumstances that got them there? And what are some of the circumstances of their home life when they got home? Did they go back home? Was it all right? Did they have to be all alone? If you got brothers and sisters, do they all go away too? Yo, what we gonna do? We going to get into it. Get into it. Get involved. Yeah, this mystery we will solve. Not sure if it's a mystery, but we will look deep into it. How y'all feeling, man? Carol Chamberlain, me Favorita is all up in the house. How you feeling? Good to see me, some of you. And my man Charles Lindsay. All up in the place, all up in the area. It's good to see my brother, my brother, no doubt. My mellow, my man, and Charlene Curry. Charlene Curry. What's going on, Charlene? How you feeling, Charlene? Good to see me, some of you. You already know how we do. True story. Barbara Hill C say, Bobby Hill C say, what's going on? How you feeling, Ma? Good to see you. Good to see you. And my brother from another mother, Norris Hill. I said my brother from another mother, Norris Hill. What's going on, my brother? Thanks for coming on through. It's good to see me. I got my eyes on you. You know how we do. You know how we do. My brother from another mother, no doubt. Come through. All right. So this is the Urban Therapy with Son show. All right, let's get it popping. Urban Therapy with Son 752. And this is the Urban Therapy with Son show. We do this every single weekend from 11 o'clock till around 12:30-ish. And the reason that we say 12:30-ish is because sometimes we just have to do a little OT on a weekend. And it is the weekend Saturday, the 6th of the month. It's the 6th of the month. Wake up, wake up, wake up. It's time for us to get it popping, man. You know, we are on our way to the springtime weather, but it's not all the way here. So we have to hold it down in the meantime. And in the meantime, in between time, we're going to get it popping with the conversation. And we got a goodie for y'all today. Today, we're talking about blacks and boarding homes. Black people and boarding homes. What do y'all know? Do you know any black people that went to boarding homes? Boarding schools. Let me rewind it all. And today we have a goodie. Today we're going to talk about black people and boarding schools. Black people in boarding schools. Do you know any black people that have attended boarding schools? And from what ages, what grades? What are the circumstances that got them there? You know, most of us grow up around the way, getting in the shit, learning from our peers, copying, pasting, doing whatever we have to do in order to make it out here in the crib and out here in these streets, and to do as best as we can in our school, you know, scholastically, academically speaking. But some of us have had different scholastic experiences than others have. So when let's say you have spent all of your education in the public school system. So you may have gone to preschool, you may not have. You may have gone to kindergarten, you may not have. It is an option. It used to be. I'm not so sure if you can get out of going to kindergarten now, but back in the day, you could start school in the first grade, and it was a little harder for people who started in the first grade. It was a little harder for students who started school for the first time in the first grade if they didn't have parents that were giving them a good education at home, homeschooling them, making sure that they knew their ABCs and their 1, 2, 3s and their little nursery rhymes, and kind of making sure that they got a head start on knowing how to read. My parents did that, but I went to school since I was like 2 or 3. Now I would say about 3, no later than 4, definitely. You know what I mean? New covenant, get set. I'll never forget it. You know what I mean? Shout out to my man, Mr. Gilbert. May he rest in peace. Very good teacher, Mr. Gilbert. So I spent most of my academic experience in the public school system. So like I went to Get Set. I went to kindergarten, John B. Kelly, and first and second grade in John B. Kelly, elementary school. From there, I spent 2 years, 3rd and 4th grade, in St. Barnabas Episcopal School. From there, I went back to public school because I was a handful, like all that Catholic, taking religion and all of that shit. I asked too many questions, and I'm a little bit too rebellious. I couldn't rock the uniform, too much longer and all of that. And I don't know, all of the going to mass and all that. I was like, I was a bit of a discipline problem. I was smart. I could hang with them, but yeah, let's just say, yeah. So I did have a piece of the parochial experience, so I can speak on that. 2 years was more than enough for me. I definitely got the gist of it. So going back to public school, where I would eventually, ride out the rest of my days until high school. But I had family members, I had friends who went to boarding schools. I remember when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I remember my man. What was my? You know how your parents have friends and they have kids, so y'all sort of like cousins or like brothers or whatever. Well, unfortunately, I can't remember my man's name, but I remember when he was going away to school. He was going to school. He was getting sent away to Scotland School for Veterans Children. And I remember he was pretty excited about that adventure, or about the venture itself. And he was like, oh, you should ask your mom, can you come too? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking like, what you talking about? Like, what do you mean? Like, why would you go somewhere else to go to school? So, we were young. I didn't understand the situation that was that surrounded that. And I'm trying to think about whether I ever saw him again, because I don't remember seeing him a lot more after that, after he went away. So he went away to a boarding school, and may he rest in peace too. He died young. I'm a little unclear about the circumstances that caused his death, but he's been dead. He's been dead at least 25 years or more. I don't want to straight go out and say 30 years, but I think it's leaning more. I don't think he saw 25 years old for whatever reason, whatever. And I'm not sure if he graduated from Scotland or whatever. But that was the first time I ever heard of anybody going to a boarding school. I didn't really understand it until later on in the 80s. In the 80s, watching Facts of Life. Facts of Life was a school. Was a show about a boarding school out somewhere. I don't know where. I think it was supposed to be in New York, up in New York State or something like that. And I remember that there was only one black girl on the show, Facts of Life, and that was Tootie. Tootie was a cutie. Tootie was a cutie. Tootie was definitely a cutie. Kim Fields, and seeing the way that they structure Facts of Life, with that being a boarding school, they never focused on their home life or what actually made their parents send them there. And with Tootie being the only black girl there, they did a hell of a job making sure that they didn't single her out. You couldn't miss it. She stuck out like a sore thumb. She's a main character on the show and the only black person on the show. Not the only black girl. She's the only black person. Wasn't no other black people on Facts of Life. And when you think back on it, it's like, so ain't nobody gonna say nothing about this, huh? Her best friend Natalie. Little chunky ass white girl. Ain't nobody gonna say, yeah. So ain't nobody gonna say nothing about the fact that she probably wasn't exposed to other young black men. So what kind of men, what kind of relationships was he getting into as a teenager? Or was it a situation where, because they went to a boarding school, and it was an all girls boarding school, that they were kept away from boys? You know that's not the truth, because there were boys on the show that came on as guests and they dated girls that were on the show. So what we doing? But we're talking about black people in boarding schools, but we're also talking about black people in boarding schools and group homes. Now, we may know that there is a big difference between the circumstances that may send you to a boarding school and the circumstances that may send you to a group home. A group home is a sort of a boarding school because you do go to school there. We know that. If you don't know, first of all, hold on, let me slow it down. Let me scale it back a little bit, because I think I'm moving a little too fast. I might be trying to get out more information than I'm relaying to y'all on a positive side. So let me slow it down. Queen Monica Davis is all up in the house. What's going on, Queen Monica? And Queen Matu Mayini Monica Davis, word up. And Crystal Pittman, thanks for coming on through. It's good to see me, you, without a doubt. And my man, Daryl Lackey. Speaking of public school, that's my man. 1985, my man, Daryl Lackey, all up in the house. Thanks for coming through. So, yeah. Now, I was saying that the circumstances that will send a child to a group home is a lot different than the circumstances that may send a child to boarding school. However, we might have to slow down right there. We may have to make a little pit stop, because are there big differences between the circumstances that send a young person to a boarding school than the circumstances that send them to a group home? With both situations, you may be dealing with parents that haven't made enough time for their children. Maybe parents are sick. Maybe parents are very busy in their careers. Maybe they have careers that won't allow them to spend the type of time with their children and give them the full adjustment experience that every child should be afforded. But nonetheless, that would still signal, for me, neglect. So whether it's neglect where you have enough money and enough resources to send your child to a boarding school, or whether it's neglect where you don't have enough money to take care of your child, so your child gets out there, starts getting into trouble, starts getting on the path to incarceration, and is not going to school, which may have led to some juvenile delinquency. And the group home is the exchange. It's the alternative to incarceration. Sometimes going to a group home involves or includes incarceration also. But with both of these situations, you have to ask, what's going on back at the crib? So that's what we're going to get into. I said, That's what we're gonna get into. That's what we're gonna get into on the Urban Therapy with Son show. On the Urban Therapy with Son show, we have we should have a guest coming through in just a few, and he's gonna help us out, to relay some of his experiences with going to a boarding school and give us some insight, some valuable insight into this phenomenon of going to a boarding school. Black people going to boarding school. Listen, we know that white people go to boarding schools. We're used to that. We know that, I don't want to be stereotypical about it, but, just to be honest about it, we know that white people are used to having other people take care of their children. We know that they are used to sending their children away. We know it. We know it for a fact. We see it all the time. We know that during slavery times, they didn't spend a lot of time with their children. We did. We were more like their mother, not their father, though. They don't want them around no black men. But they will allow black women to raise their children, even to breastfeed them in some extreme cases. Now fuck with that. Imagine another woman breastfeeding your baby. Like, just the thought of it is like, the thought of it might be enough to make somebody's blood boil. Anybody who cares about their child, I would think. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. No, this is not an any titty will do type of situation. But we do know, or you should know, and if you didn't know, I'm here to let you know that there were situations back in the day during slavery times where black mammies actually breastfed white children. So we know that of course, that's if you have the resources and the money to do so. So it's still the same thing. You got to have money to send your kids to a boarding school. It ain't sweet like that. You got to have a couple of dollars. So we're going to get into it. Cinderella, Dana, Cherry is all up in the house. Cherry is all up in the house. It's Cinderella, Dana. Well, it's the woman Dana with fame. It's Cinderella, Dana. Well, it's the woman Dana with fame. So I see that our guest is just about to check in, and we also have another caller. If you want to speak, if you want to get on the microphone, if you want to get on the show and speak, press number 1, and we will get you on up in here. We are talking about black people and boarding schools and group homes. So let me read some of your comments. Oh, what's going on, Stacy, Yvette White? I've been told that I haven't been saying the name right. I thought YVETT was Yvette, but turns out I might be wrong. So she might pronounce it Yvette. Maybe. All right. So please be careful, Cherry, on your way to DC to bowl and dinner. Be careful out there. Have a good time, though. Barbara Hill CC says, my girlfriend Bernice went to St. Cyril or something. She had she lived there for years. And I know a dude who went to Girard College. Girard College is a boarding school within the city of Philadelphia and has a lot of children from the city of Philadelphia who go to Girard College. So they're not educated outside of the city. They don't have to go to a faraway place, but they are removed away from their parents and their neighborhood. They don't go home every day. They stay on campus. And Girard College has a very storied history concerning black people. Because, Stephen Girard. Okay. We can get into that. We perhaps later on in the show, we'll look up some of the history surrounding Girard College, because there was a time there that they wouldn't allow black children to go to Girard College. And Girard College is free. It's not like you have to pay to go there, but you do have to have some type of sponsorship from what I understand. But it's a good school, and from what I understand, most boarding schools have a good educational program. Does that mean that every child gets the equal type of attention that they need in order to succeed academically? No, it doesn't mean that at all. Let's not get that twisted. It doesn't mean that every boarding school is turning out Ivy League material type of students. It doesn't mean that at all. And it doesn't mean that they would be able to qualify to go to Central. Well, Master, you ain't getting it. But I'm saying though. Okay, let's go. Carol Chamberlain says, I had a cousin who went to Girard College. Okay. Barbara talking about something. It's too early for that banging. I have a hangover from Thursday. Wow. You got to slow down, man. Slow down. You know what I mean? Drink some tomato juice. You know what I'm saying? Get some roughage in your system. It'd be all right. No, she says, I dated somebody whom I used to volunteer transporting her home and back, almost 2 years, 2 hours each day. Yes, she was that insatiable. Have mercy. Oh shit. Okay. All right. Goodbye, my summer love. All right, Barbara Hill said, mad she had ashy lips all the time. Oh, you talking about Tootie? Like she licked her lips too much. She's also the most successful right now. Oh, Kim Fields, Tootie. Oh yeah. Tootie had nice, big, juicy titties, even on the show. But she got rid of those by the time she got on Living Single. So Tootie's garbage. I used to love her, you know what I mean? Tootie is gone by the way of let me see. Who's my list of they ain't cute no more? That's number one. That would be Serena Williams. Eve. I never really liked Eve that much, but she's out of here. This is my list of black women that can't come back. Latifah. Yeah, I was kidding. She was never there. She's not a woman. Okay, psych. All right. Look, come on, let's get into the show. All right. All right. Barbara Hill, she says, my mama wanted to send my nephews to Scotland, but my nephews were too much of a discipline problem. I'm thinking, wait a minute, isn't that what they needed? Discipline? I thought group homes were for disciplinary problems. Not sure though. No, it is true. Group homes are for young people who have discipline problems, and also you have Job Corps. But the thing is, a lot of young people who go to group homes turn their lives around, and they develop skills, life skills, and academic skills a lot of times, and also job skills that they carry well into the rest of their lives. So if you go to a group home and you stop fighting, stop wilding out, stop tripping and all of that, most of the people that I know who went to Glen Mills did well when they went to Glen Mills. I don't know anybody who went to Glen Mills, came back and was worse. Most of the people I know that went to Glen Mills, and there were a lot of them, a lot of my friends, a lot of my associates, a lot of people that I knew were going to Glen Mills and Slayton Farms in the 80s, because it was the crack era, and there was a lot of crack being sold, and there were a lot of young teenage boys, black teenage boys getting locked up. A lot of them weren't going to school. A lot of them were really, really headed for trouble. But they went to Glen Mills. Glen Mills was very, very good at developing athletes. Football team, basketball team, off the chain. But academically, a lot of cats learn to read better, do math better, learn science and things like that when they went to Glen Mills. It might have been the only time that they went to school regularly. So, Glen Mills was definitely, Glen Mills and other group homes were definitely for young people who had discipline problems, but it's still a boarding school atmosphere in that you do not go home and you are not incarcerated. So you're kind of given a chance to hang yourself or to do better. Narsil says JC was the daughter of the deputy sheriff who was deceased before I met her. But I had her educated path, but he had her educated. Yo, my shit is bad. But he had her educated path, but he had her educational path was laid. Okay. Mind you, she was the baby of the 5 sisters, no brothers. Okay. So it says he made sure. Okay. All right. I'm thinking it's me. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. I got you. He made sure her educational path was laid. Okay. The older sisters were cool as well as their mom. Barbara Hill CC says, I don't drink anymore. I'm a frigging lightweight. I hear you. Lark Voorhees. Okay. Tootie is married to a black man. Don't know what she did in the past. No, I'm not saying because she's married to but that had nothing to do with it. I'm talking about because she cut her titties off. You think I'm gonna forgive that shit? What you think Okay, Scotland School was a boarding school for descendants of military folks, right? My nephews were supposed to be able to go on the strength of my dad, but were turned away. I don't even know if it's still open. It's not still open anymore. Charlene Curry. Charlene Curry. What's going on, Charlene? How you feeling, Charlene? Good to see me some you. All right, so let's get into this thing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring our guest onto the show. My man, brother 2408, my real brother. So let's bring him on here right now and make sure he's ready to go. Excuse me, guest 2408. Welcome to the Urban Therapy with Sun show. Are you ready? Are you ready to do the damn thing this morning?
What's up, Urban Therapy? Good.
It's good to see me some you. How you feeling, my man?
I'm doing great, man. How about you, son?
Feeling like a real man should. You already know. So yeah, I asked you to come on the show because I know that you have some experiences that you can relate to, and I really wanted to get into this conversation about Black people in boarding schools and group homes. And I wanted you to give our audience, give our listeners, give our viewers some insight into what you think and how you feel from personal experience about the circumstances that may send a young Black child to a boarding school. Like, are they good things? Are they bad things? Are they indifferent things? Are they just life experiences? Are there issues relating to the home living experience, or is it just a strategic move to make sure and ensure that a young Black child has the educational experience that will propel them to success as they learn, develop, grow, and get into adulthood? So what I'd like you to do is introduce yourself and let people know who you are and why you're here and what we're going to talk about. So let's get into it.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Jamil Mekatai. I attended Scotland School. I was born and raised in Philadelphia. And my experiences at Scotland School were overall good. I guess anything bad I would have to say about it, it would be like, childish and like selfish things that, I wouldn't be able to make sense of as an adult. So, but with that said, With that said, my school was actually sort of a mix of, kids with problems and a mix of kids with special circumstances. And, it wasn't like a boarding school you paid for or could just it wasn't like the run-of-the-mill average boarding school. It wasn't like, even though it was like, military, it wasn't just like, oh, my people was in the military so they could go. Like, it was a waiting list for that, but, it was different. Like, we always got injected with, special cases, people that was their option before, incarceration and stuff like that. But, I also had a lot of experiences with kids that went to the other types of boarding schools, like the Valley Forges and the, Girard College and we even, Vision Quest is different, but, gives like the all disciplinary schools. And, we fit in more with the all disciplinary type group home schools more than the Valley Forges. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But from what I could see, the education, was a little bit, I would like to say, a little bit superior to a public education. It was more like I wouldn't know how a private school education was, but it was. I always noticed that I knew a lot of small things and big things that that the average person didn't really know.
Mm-hmm.
So but I'm gonna give you a chance to cut in. I don't want to keep rambling. You know what I mean?
Well,
I just wanted to speak to.
Well, I have some questions for you. First of all, a boarding school is a private school. I don't know if you knew that, but it's not a private school just because you pay for it. It's a private school because you are separated. You are separated from the funding of the what do you call it? The not the Board of Education, but the what do they call the thing that's in the city that Constance Clayton was the superintendent of whatever, but they receive, like a private school can receive private funding in order to operate, whereas a public school has to rely on state funding, city funding, and taxes, things like that. You understand what I mean? So yeah, in that area, it was definitely a private school. So whether or not you have to pay tuition or not is not the only thing that separates a private school from a public school. You definitely received a private school education. Now, I guess the first question that I would ask you, if you could speak on, what would you think that the biggest misconceptions of going to a boarding school, a Black person going to a boarding school, what do you think that the biggest misconceptions of Black people who didn't go to a boarding school or didn't know too much about it, what do you think that they would think about a boarding school, about Black people going to boarding school? What do you think would be one of the biggest misconceptions that somebody who didn't go to a boarding school, didn't appreciate it or know that much about it would have of people who go to boarding schools? What would you say that was? Do you understand the question that I'm asking?
Yeah. I would just say, probably the biggest thing is that they probably, I notice like people don't think that the trials and tribulations are the same and that things don't get as harsh. You know what I mean? And sometimes, worse in certain ways. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's kind of, you know what I mean? It's kind of like we all had this standing thing. Like, we all got a certain grittiness about us. But, I noticed like the outside world, it's like, they would look at a lot of certain types, as if like, oh, like, you you got powder cake, so it's kind of a softness, but it's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, you off in the world without parents, you know what I mean? Like, it's structured, but it's an underworld that's going on, you know what I mean, at the same time, and it's all ran by children. And we all know how kids get. You feel me? So it's a little different. Like, you don't have that same escape as a person. You know what I mean? It was like a lot, yeah. And it's like, you know what I mean? We dealing with people that got issues.
Right.
You feel me? And
okay.
It's like, people that go to public school, like if it's a normal, like, granted, it's a normal situation, they get an escape, to their family. You know what I mean? On a regular basis. And, a lot goes on when your family ain't something you got to run to. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I would say, really.
Okay. So you're saying, if I'm understanding you right, you're saying that people think that because you're going to a boarding school that you don't have to deal with the pressures of the streets of the city and like the crime and things like that. They think that maybe y'all have it a little bit easier. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, easier and sweet. You know what I mean?
Okay.
All in the same range.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
So I would say that's the biggest misconception that I would think.
I think that you're probably right about that. I would think that because a lot of our Black teenage youth, they get into things, pressure for drugs, pressure for crime, pressure for, get into a lot of trouble, having to run from police and teenage pregnancy and anything, even though teenage pregnancy is not a crime, but it is a circumstance that can derail the future path of somebody that may be going the right way. I'm not trying to say that having kids is a bad thing, but at a certain age, that shouldn't be your focus. And I would think that, yeah, I could see how somebody who went to public school, and especially if they grew up in a city, an active city like Philadelphia or Chicago or New York or places like that, I could see how they would think that you probably had it pretty light. Like your days were probably mapped out in a way that would get you from the time that you woke up to the time that you went back to bed. It would be pretty seamless. So I could understand that being a big misconception. I'm surprised that that's the biggest misconception that you think people have of people who go to boarding schools, or black kids that go to boarding school. Is there anything else that you think that okay, with you going there, have you had to? Yeah, I was going to ask you, have you heard anything else that you've had to clear up from other people regarding where you went to school and how things played out?
No, because I think like the stereotypical boarding school structure, yeah, it's the same. It's kind of uniform. You know what I mean? Wherever you go, it's just that some places is softer and some places is harder. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So it was as uniform as it looks on TV. It's just that like, yeah, it's still a lot different. You know what I mean? Like, the whole, like I said, it's a, it's an underlying. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of underlying stuff going on that, that the staff has nothing to do with, and it's like it don't even reach. And, like, it's weird. You know what I mean? Like, okay. Yeah, but sort of like Lord of the Flies in a weird way. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
But like sort of. I don't want to exaggerate in any bit, but just to give you an idea of what I'm getting at. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like it's really like that actually. You know what I mean? Like if you can't hold your own, man. It could be a dark place. Like I said, it's a place that's concentrated with people with issues, and you can't get away from them. You have to live with them.
Okay. Now, well, yeah, I definitely understand. Now I'm going to have to fall back a little bit because I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm going to I'm going to have to make sure that I make you explain it to people who may not know, because I'm like, for me, you're just going over it. But for everybody else, they're going to have to get a clearer picture of what you're saying. So you might have to give a better illustration. Let me ask you this. When you say that you had to deal with people with issues, what do you mean? Like, what kind of issues are you talking about? Are you talking about? Is it physical issues, psychological issues? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, mental issues, sexual deviancy, violent issues, anger problems, not having manners and knowing how to deal with things in general, just, poorly home trained. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then, it was also, it's always also the mix of those that aren't like that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's like, yeah, everybody, like all the issues that you can imagine anywhere else, but in those places, it can be concentrated.
Right.
To the bad.
Right.
You feel me? With absolutely no escape from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, because you went to a boarding school, one of the biggest differences that you experienced from anyone who goes to a traditional private school or a public school was that you went home with your classmates. You lived with your classmates, not all of them, but y'all had a community. Whereas everyone else, when they are in school with their classmates, that's what they are. And when they go home, they're separated from their classmates. If they want to hang out with them or go over their house or talk to them on the phone, that's one thing. But they don't know what it's like to live with them or sort of spend the night with them every night and live with them as if they were your brother or sister. So that's a major difference. So can you speak on that a little bit? What is that like? How do you get used to something like that? How do you get used to living with people who don't share any of your bloodline and who may or may not be there to support you or like you or even try to be cordial with you? What's that like?
Okay, well, on a lot of things, well, yeah, man, everybody has their own personality. And that there is no real oversee of that. And yeah, man, depending on who you were and how you were, it could have been a long, hard road. You know what I mean? Like in my situation, it was all kids from Philly. You know what I mean? And a lot of things come with that by itself. So you know what I mean? Like in these situations, it wasn't just your classmates. It was a age range of 3 years. You know what I mean? So if you were 8, 9, or 10, you might have been housed with somebody that was 11, 12. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean 9, 11, 12. You know what I mean? Depending. So it was always that. Like so yeah. Depending on who you were lucky enough or unlucky enough to be housed with. The circumstances, were from a wide range, but the oversee of the social life was very light. And, I gotta say that because, coming from Philly, it became famous way later, but, we were raised on the no snitching culture. You know what I mean? Like straight raised on it. Like, you were just, as a child, like you were ostracized. So, with that said, you had to find a way to deal with mostly all things that could be dealt with without authority in that way, or else, you risked furthering your demise. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know what I mean? Or or whatever you was going through, you realize that exacerbating your issues. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's what it was like living with quote unquote classmates. You know what I mean? Like the age range would differ a bit. And you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's like it's times where you were with much older kids. You know what I mean? Like when it was time to play, like
Right.
so it was just different. Like, like I said, anybody that grew up in the inner city in Philadelphia, you know what I mean? You just think if you were stuck in a small, you were stuck in your neighborhood with five to 10 of those bad kids, of those one or two bad kids that were in your neighborhood, that everybody talked about.
Yeah.
Like those kids were concentrated where we were.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we had numerous of those children to deal with in a much smaller per capita situation. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, you know what I mean? So, like I said, the problems ranges in the spectrum as the same in the real world. So, just to not ramble on, I mean, everybody can imagine, like, every problem imaginable.
Okay. Now it's funny because when I hear you speak about growing up and then getting into a situation like that, or comparing that to a situation where the difference is that you grew up on the streets, in the streets, at home, going to school, from school, going back home every day, versus y'all going to y'all cabin or whatever the living quarters were called when y'all would finish your academic school day. But when we talk about the situation that you experienced by going to a boarding school as a young Black man, we're actually talking about your formative years, your developmental years. So essentially, you are growing up at school. You hear people talk about how when they were growing up, they went to school all the time, instead of playing hooky or cutting school all the time, cutting classes and things like that. But I don't know if cutting class was even an option for y'all. So, but even if it was, the bottom line is you grew up or were growing up in school away from your parents. So one of the biggest differences is that where somebody who went to a traditionally public school or private school, they came home to their parents and talked about what happened during their day, what happened with any problems that they were going through, how they felt about anything, whatever circumstances that were going on in their lives as they were growing up, learning and growing and experiencing. Whereas y'all didn't have that to come home to. So, I want you to speak a little bit on what it was like to essentially be raised by people who were not your parents, because I'm thinking that maybe it was a situation where hopefully all of the caretakers, the house mothers or whatever, cared about y'all. But what if they didn't? Did some people just come to school and do their job just like if you went to a regular a public school or private school? You understand what I mean? So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Okay, I'll start with like people might be wondering how much contact with parents. We were allowed a 30-minute phone call once a week. Paint that picture. The house parents were both male and female. The personalities were all type ranges, you know what I mean? But, everybody did their job well where I was, I will say that, like, some people were mean, but everybody, some people were cool, but everybody did their job well. So, yeah. Well, the people I ran into, I pretty much knew everybody pretty much, and staff. So yeah, I will say that, but you would find yourself in spats that children and adults shouldn't be in, and it's like only that type of energy and way because you're not their child and they're not your parent, and both of y'all are carrying that with y'all on how y'all deal with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So you got that dynamic, and that was a constant. But it was it's like anywhere else. Some house parents you liked, and some of them took to you or like it to you, and some of them had favorites and stuff like that. But if you got it the hard way, like you kind of just had to do what you had to do, and it was there was corporal punishment where I was. If anybody doesn't know, that means they could put their hands on you. So they kept everybody in line with threats and actual corporal punishment. You know what I mean? We were manhandled and paddled if we got out of line with a wooden paddle, buttocks. And it wasn't just like for anything. You had to work your way up. Steps to finally get in the paddling. So that's kind of how discipline went, and we had a demerit system to where you got privileges taken away if for doing things wrong. So it was kind of everything was kind of numeric, and it was real. Yeah, I don't got the right word for it right now, but real systematic.
Okay.
So at times it was like factory-like and real robotic, and but other times it was way too personal on a inconsiderate level from everybody. You know what I'm saying? So that was the dynamic with the house parents.
All right, now you said something that caught my attention. You said that if there were discipline problems, sometimes y'all would get paddled. What if you had parents? What if you had parents that disagreed with that type of disciplinary action, or did you sign that, or do you agree to that type of punishment when you send your child there?
It's funny. I actually know that in a lot of private schools that you can opt out for your child to not receive corporal punishment, but ours was more structured like Vision Quest. You know what I mean? So ours, everybody, it was like I wouldn't know if what my parents signed, but there was no, oh no, they can't get the paddle. There was nobody ever that was exempt from the paddle. But I did know that of like especially places like Girard College, you know what I'm saying, and Valley Forge, you know what I'm saying. So but where I was, there was no exemptness. There was no exemption from the paddle.
And I'm over here laughing. I'm asking myself at the same time, like, what's so funny? Because it's not, because if when I think about physically disciplining my child, sometimes I think about, well, should I say children? I think about a belt. Some people went in my opinion, some parents went too far and beat their children with extension cords or the shoes, heels, all kinds of stuff. You hear people talking about they got beat with pots and pans and curling irons and all old crazy stuff. But when I think about a paddle, I'm thinking about there's no way that can't hurt. You know what I'm saying? So but the potential for abuse is definitely there. You know what I'm saying? Now that's not to say that they did abuse y'all, but I would think that as a bystander, it would probably be easy for somebody to judge that as abuse. Like even if I did exercise corporal punishment with my child, I'm not using no paddle. You know what I'm saying? Like they may choose something that's actually worse than a paddle, but sounds better than a paddle. But I also want to ask you. You said that you were allowed to speak to your parents at home a maximum of 30 minutes a day. I mean, I'm sorry, 30
No,
minutes a week. A week. Now, what was the
Yeah.
reason? What was the reason? What do you think is the reason, or was there an official reason why that type of system was put in place?
Because any coddling would have been counterproductive to the process that your child was to, for any coddling would have been counterproductive to why your child was sent there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the idea was to limit the contact with people back at home because they may be saying, well, are they treating you all right up there? Do I need to come up there? Or when I could see how it could make you start to miss being at home a lot. For some, but but as you can see, that's clearly a circumstance that separates you from from I don't want to say the outside world. You're still in the world, but from people who went to regular public schools or private schools and things like that. So yeah, as you can see, there's clearly a system put in place with a clear objective that you're trying to achieve when you limit contact of children being able to contact their parents back where they live. Now, do you think that did you agree with that? Was that did you see the benefit of that play out where you were?
I mean, like when I think about it, man, that might have just been like, I seen it in a much mature way than it was told to me, but there might have just been what I remember everybody being told when they wanted to call more, just like on some, like, yeah, I was never, I can't remember officially being told or given a real official explanation, but it was just like, well, they y'all calling, yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, it wasn't officially told. We just knew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's now, guy. You know what I mean?
Okay. Now, I'm what I'm going to need you to do is I'm going to need you to relax a little bit because I'm going to probably drudge up things that you haven't thought about in a while. You know what I mean? And also the way that you felt about it to the point where you might have to rethink about like, damn, what did I think about that? You know what I'm saying? Because you know how it is when you're younger. A lot of things go over your head that you were actively doing. You know what I'm saying? Some things that you may have done yourself could actually have been sending a message that you weren't trying to send. So I might take you back to those places sometimes. So when I'm asking you questions and stuff like that, I'm not trying to insinuate anything. Let me take you off guard with that. Number one, I'm just trying to get the information out of you. Number two, I'm really just trying to give our listeners, our viewers, a clearer view of what this option was all about, and whether it was something that could have been a good thing for all of us, or maybe it's something that we need to restructure in the future. Should that ever become the case? You understand what I'm saying? So just I mean, just take your time. Take your time. There's no rush here. We gonna get it done, and just know that there's no other motivation in the questions that I ask other than getting the information out of from you, because this is good stuff, and I really appreciate you coming on and answering these questions. Now, we had a question in the chat room with my man Ansel Jones. He says, how did people gauge success? So when you were at your boarding school, at your military school, how, what would a successful student, how would how would the house parents, the teachers, the educators, the principal, the principal, whatever, how, and even the students, how did y'all gauge success between one another? Like, was it purely academics, or was there something else involved in that?
Yeah, success came in all, I guess, yeah, success came in, it could be sports, but we had an extra branch of things going on that could have brought you a lot of success and acknowledgement at the school. The military branch of it, like we had a military regiment at school. So, you know, if you excelled in that, you know, that could have did a lot for you. And, you know, getting in the college of your choice, you know, like, you know, Ivy League or nothing wasn't that big of a deal, but yeah, getting in the college of your choice was successful enough, because, you know, it was like, if you finished, you know, if you were lucky enough to finish there, you know, you were pretty much a shoe into college somewhere. You know what I mean? You know, they weren't going to let you get out of there without being able to make it to college if that's what you wanted to do. But you know, like I said, if you excelled in the military program, you could go into the military with rank already.
Really?
If that's what you chose to do, yeah. If you chose to go into the military instead of college, you can enter the military with rank.
Wow. That's not a small deal. That's not a small deal at all. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, that was like as an adult it seemed cool, but very few took the military option. It was like that was like a very few and far in between that somebody was like, oh yeah, they're gonna rock the military instead of going to college. Very few people did it. But
really?
I do know I know at least a handful of people that did it. But yeah, it's like as an adult, it's like, who the fuck would, like, oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Like, who
no. Wait a minute. Cursing is allowed on this show. We don't do censorship on here. So,
smooth.
So we don't be apologizing for expression. We don't do that. You know what I mean? You gonna make me start cussing. Go ahead. You say it how you mean it.
That's what's up. Well, yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's kind of just how it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It was like, you know, very few people chose not to, you know, try out college instead of go to the military. It was kind of, we kind of nerdized it, you know, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I'm sure many more people wanted to do it than actually did it because of the social structure and the social pressure that was up there.
Wow. Now, you know, I was going to ask you to speak a little bit more on the military aspect of the academy, because, you know, when you know people who went to a Catholic school, a parochial school, whatever, one of the things that you have to take while you're there is religion class. And you also have to participate in that Ash Wednesday, all that bullshit and mass and all. You have to. It's not an option. Which is one of the reasons I really didn't like it. Like, what is this shit? You know, I mean, it didn't have anything to do necessarily with, at my young age, 8 or 9 years old, it didn't have that much to do with what I knew about religion, but I knew that around the way, I ain't know nobody that was putting ash on their forehead, and I did want to see what that little wafer that they ate. I wanted to see what that tasted like. I'm like, that's supposed to be bread. What kind of bread? I really wanted to taste that shit. So anyway, whereas in a parochial school, you have to take religion, and that's whether you are Catholic or Episcopal or whatever type of religion that deals with the parish, or even if you go to a Christian school. So going to a military school, you said that like y'all the term you used is that y'all kind of nerdized it. So you was sort of looked at as a geek if you took the if you went the if you accepted the guidance of the path of going into the military or whatever. But can you speak on how going to a military school and having that training, can you speak on how it affected you, or what you saw, or how you saw it affect your other classmates and your brothers and sisters, or what, however you term it? Like how did that affect you in life as a child? Like what did it mean to you?
What, like the military part?
Yeah, the military part, definitely. Because it was a requirement,
man,
right?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
You know what, man? It served me well my entire life, man. You know, it taught me to have a certain cleanliness about myself. You know, it actually instilled the things that my parents weren't able to because of me being away from them. You know, like that. The military part did a good job of teaching you how to do things that were normally your parents' responsibility. And I've appreciated it my entire life since going through it.
Okay. So did you have to learn how to use guns or weapons? Was there self-defense training, things like that?
Yeah, you did. When you were of a certain age, I forget which age it was, but and somewhere in the teens, you did learn how to use a rifle. Not you didn't get to shoot it, but you did learn how to dismantle and clean it, and re-put it together, and do cadence and maneuvers with it.
But no shooting?
No shooting.
Wow. So wait a minute. You learn how to clean the gun. You learn how to twirl the gun.
No, not quite clean it. Not quite clean
okay,
it.
not
clean it, but just dismantle it and put it back together.
Do you feel like that training, in whatever way, as far as weapons were concerned, was there a way to teach y'all to have more respect for human life, or for weapons, for weaponry? Was that one of the attributes of it?
I mean, no, not really. There was no emphasis on weaponry at all. But everybody that was in the instruction part of the military sector was highly decorated.
Okay.
So, we got everything that the military had to offer as children.
Okay. All right. I could dig that.
That a lot of discipline, and a lot of things came with that. And I seen a lot of grown men give credit to the military doing that for them. And I realized that I already had all that as a child. You know what I mean? Like in person and on TV, I've seen people accredit the military to the exact thing that I gave going to Scotland credit for.
Okay. Okay. So when a private goes into the military, they have to go through basic training, and that's a real awakening for a lot of people who go into the military, because you've never been exposed to that type of strenuous activity. The running, the getting in shape, the discipline, the yelling, the screaming, all of the extreme stuff that we see on TV. You know what I mean? It makes it seem like it's such a big difference between how you may have been raised or grew up or been exposed to versus what's going to happen to you once you get into the military. But the basic training is just preparing you for a career for a number of years in the military to either prepare you for combat or prepare you for whatever job that you're going to do in the military that you can parlay into a career in your life as an adult. So going to a military school, do you think, I think you said it a little bit, but I want to make sure that we're being totally transparent and direct about it. Do you feel like the military training, do you feel like it gave you a greater respect for the military? Because just like you were saying, you've heard people say, credit their lives, saving their lives to going into the armed services or whatever. Would you say that happened for you and other people that you know also?
Yeah, I guess I would. Yeah, in the sense of, I noticed myself to be a lot more structured, willing, and able to do certain things that I thought were normal and, that I took for granted, you know what I mean? And then I noticed that, grown men didn't even like have together. And like I said, all that, you know what I'm saying? With the, all everything that comes along with, the different personalities and everything, you know what I mean? But, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
What was the second part of that question?
No, basically you answered it, because I was asking, did you credit? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. My phone was different now. I'm sorry, I had to move around a little bit.
Okay. No, I was asking you, would you credit the military experience and the training that y'all received as being something that really helped you in life? But you already you answered it. You answered it up front. So
yeah.
But did your peers feel the same way from what you know?
Most of them, yeah. Actually, I
90 seconds.
All of them, you know what I mean. With the if anybody didn't, it's so few that I don't even remember it.
Okay.
But and like even most of us hated it while we were going through it. Like nobody took it well. Like nobody wanted, a couple people, I guess. But but nobody really wanted to be there. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, it wasn't like other places. Like nobody wanted to be where we were. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that. So but growing up as adults, we've all kept in touch. And we all collectively appreciated and love what we went through.
Do you think that was okay? Now, touching on that, and I have some questions from the chat room that I want to ask you. But touching on that though, do you think, as a full-grown adult now, looking back on it, do you think that the experience of being together built the camaraderie amongst y'all, because the choices to separate were kind of limited, or was it the actual structure of the school that did it? Do you think it was the experience of being together, sort of like a family, that did it, or was it because of the way that the school was set up and the system that was put in place that did it, or maybe a combination of the two? What do you think?
Yeah, I would say because of how it was set up, it forced us to make our own families while we were there, and when we left, we became a collective family.
So, with y'all going to that school and having that experience, it's an exclusive club. You know what I'm saying? It's like because there aren't too many people outside of of the people who went there that can speak on it, you know, with that can speak on it with the kind of candid information that y'all would know. It's there's a lot of insider information. Outsiders can't really speak on that. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's, you know, it's like what we know, and like it's just, you know, like we kind of raised each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
It's the sense is in everybody. Like, you know, it's weird. Like, yeah, man, people I thought hated me. You know what I mean? You know, would reach out as adults. Like people that people that I never got along with. I mean, ever got along with in the school. When you know, it's like I left before some other people. Like I became friends with people that I you know, wouldn't associate with when I left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so it was kind of like, yeah, it just was weird, man. It's like, yeah, even if you didn't like them, you know, it was so close knit that it was like your brother that you didn't like.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So
it was like your cousin that you didn't like. You know what I mean? Like no matter what, like you know, if anybody reached out for some type of, like, yeah, it's like it's a community. Like everybody still help each other. It's real dope. You know what I mean? But it's like it was nothing like that while we were there. I mean, absolutely nothing like that. It was like, you know, it was weird. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's real weird. It's like it's a total different appreciation. I think that when we all got out to see the actual real world, we all could look back as adults like, wow, and could appreciate everything that we should have appreciated at the time.
Okay, that's cool. So would you say that y'all formed the camaraderie while y'all were actually and actively at school, or did it grow as you grew into adulthood? The camaraderie got stronger.
I believe the camaraderie, you know, it was like already building. That's why I compared it to like, you know, like your cousin or brother,
right?
Because like I said, you know, like absolutely, like no association and pretty much borderline ill feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But upon exit, you miss that person,
right?
And when it was time to reunite, all of that shit was out the window, and I mean at all times. And it wasn't just with me; it was I've seen it with other people. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like all that shit was out the window.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, and it was clear. Like it was clear that it was like, I mean, even if y'all went through something, it was like a respect and appreciation that you know whatever you got from that shit, that thing y'all went through. Because like I said, it wasn't nobody around to help you socially. It was just all. You wasn't nobody, you know what I mean? Like you had to wait a whole week to talk to your mom or dad about that problem that you was going through.
Yeah.
It was nobody. You feel me? It was like y'all had to rock that joint. Y'all had to work that out.
Right.
However y'all two personalities let y'all work it out. You know what I mean? Whatever y'all was doing. So, you know, like even the people that got teased, like it's like the people that teased them, like reach out to them. Like, as in, you know, I don't know if this is, you know, like, yeah, it's like as adults, everybody let go of their pettiness, and it was all family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it is all family to this day. Like, real, like, yeah, man, like people that I knew didn't like me, man, I was asked about me and like reached out and like went out their way to find me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that. And it's funny because in every stage of life, you never know who may be in a situation in a position to look like they really don't like you, but you never know what people are feeling on the inside. But you know, just like any other situation where you have the influence of other people that may not make it cool to embrace something or somebody. Sometimes when you get a little older and you start making your own decisions, you it may have been that those the true way that people felt had a chance to manifest itself weren't when there weren't other influences around that were messing that up. You know what I'm saying? I have a question.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you may have already kind of gone over this, but we're going to ask I want you to answer some questions from the chat room, such as Savoy Wilkins asked. All right. With that being said, being raised away from home and growing up, getting older, being away from what we call normal, and how do you deal with being a normal teenage boy? Like, I guess what she's asking is, was your teenage experience comparable to other people's teenage experiences? Even with you going to a military school or whatever, and so you can you speak on that?
Yeah. I would say it was very similar because, like I said, very similar, and also more, whatever words you want to use, very similar but very different. But the similarities was the fact that we all, like I said, we raised ourselves, and at times it was structured. It was structured, and then at times it was really Lord of the Flies. You know what I mean? And in case you don't understand the concept of Lord of the Flies, it was, like the oldest kid might have ran things, and kids are very mean.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? So like in the inner city, it's like like going to public school gives you an edge. You know what I mean? And if depending on how you play it, you might be like you might have more grit than the average person, or like how in Philly, if you might have went to school in a certain part of town, they assume that you have more grit than someone that went to school in another part of town. If you went to a certain type of high school, they think that you have less grit than if you went to the regular public high school.
Right.
You feel me?
Yep.
So,
I know exactly what you mean.
So, but with our situation, man, like it was like I said, man, you weren't really, you weren't really free to be a nerd if that's what you wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had to really be hard enough to deal with the ridicule and really be hard enough to stand on yours, or like I just witnessed. There is where I learned how cruel children are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when there's not an adult there to be like, stop, no, and don't. Like, kids are harsh. You know what I'm saying? And they have no idea of the consequences of the things that they're doing and the hurt and pain they cause. So, a lot of things got out of hand. And, when you look back, it's like, that those things wouldn't happen in the real world. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't learn how to handle yourself so well in the real world. So when I went out into the real world, like I was ready to go. And most of my cohorts were too. Like a lot of them ended up in a different type of the real world. They were ready to, they were already fully reformed and ready to live, the good life and go to school and, do what they were supposed to do. But, those of us that didn't go straight into the educational example that we were given, it's like, I noticed that, we were very advanced compared to the street guys, but in all ways, you know what I mean? Not just like, with, smarts on how to put things together educationally, but as far as like the grit that you had to have to survive and still feel like and be yourself in that type of situation. You know what I mean? Like I said, it was all concentrated. So when you came out of there, you know, you were you. So if you came out of there deciding you were a hard ass, you were absolutely, truly a hard ass.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like there was no mistake to be made about it. Like the streets wasn't going to prove you wrong. You feel me?
Okay.
Like, yeah, you had already been through enough to know if you were really a hard ass or not. You know what I mean? Like there was somebody to show you, you know what I mean, to prove you right or wrong. There were plenty of people there to prove you right or wrong. So, you know, like, and as far as the educational world, yeah, man, when, you know, well, it varied. You know what I mean? Some people were advanced going into college. Some people couldn't handle the real world.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's what I will say. Some people, I watched a lot of people excel in that structured environment, but when they hit the real world, it did not work out for them. They didn't know how. You know, I don't know the individual reasons, but yeah, a lot of people that I expected to excel, that excelled very well there, just couldn't do it in the real world.
Okay. Okay. For a minute, if you could speak on this, and we're about to get on out of here. Listen, man, you know, honestly, we might have to do a part 2 because we ain't talking nothing about the group home. But and I'm not done with you, so we'll make that decision in a minute. But no, it's not. That's not your bad at all.
You know, I rambled on a bit.
Nah, there's no rambling. This is all. It's just there's too much to try to condense it. You know, we trying to concentrate it into this small compartmentalized space. It's not working that way. It's too much. There's too much cerebral material here. You understand what I mean? So, but I want to finalize it with this. I want to ask you, and I see we have a caller on the line. I know that the caller has been on the line for a minute. I didn't really want to break the flow of the conversation, but I will take. We will see if they have a question or a comment in a minute. But I want you to speak for a second from the parenting side, if you know from what you know about that, what you can feel about that. As a parent that sends their child to a boarding school, and especially a military boarding school such as the one that you went to, how does a parent feel about the decision that they made? Do they feel like that's the best decision that they made? Do they feel like there could have been other alternatives that they could have explored other than sending you there? Is there some type of parental guilt? You know, if a parent is really invested in their career and doesn't have the time to spend with their family the way they would like to, like, for example, take like sports celebrities, you know, athletes. Especially if you're a coach of a team where you are coaching every day, each season, without any real time off, you know, like, especially if you're like a pro football coach, you don't have time to spend with your family. You just don't. You know what I mean? It's a trade-off for the career that you chose, but you're able to financially provide for your child and your family, but you're not there to be involved in the day-to-day activities. And I imagine that when everything is said and done, when your career is done, whether you are a player or whether you are a coach, there may be some guilt that you may feel, some remorse that you may feel that you weren't able to be there for your children. You know, like one of the reasons that when Kobe Bryant died last year with his daughter, I mean, that was tragic enough. But the most tragic part about it was that he retired and he was really spending a lot of time, investing a lot of time and energy into raising his family the way he was unable to do when he was an active player. And so for that to get cut down and cut short and leave family members behind, and to actually die with one of the children that he was raising, it you know, everybody could pretty much feel that. So as a parent who sends their child, makes the decision to send their child to a military school, what's the mentality of that parent from what you know? If you can speak on that, please do.
Okay. Well, my mom had took the guilty road. She didn't like it, but my father, who was a military man, he knew absolutely well that he was doing the right thing and had no regrets or qualms about it. So, you know, my mom didn't like it until it was all over and she realized, you know, what was going on in Philadelphia, you know, versus what I didn't have to deal with. So, you know, my mom came around, you know, afterwards, but, you know, while I was there, she didn't like it at all.
Okay.
It was something that she allowed, you know, my brother was a lot of trouble young. So, you know, it was just something that, you know what I mean, that she dealt with or whatever. But
yeah,
my pops, he was cool and he knew it was better for me. And he was with it.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, what we're going to do is we're going to end our segment with that. Oh, let me take the caller. There's a caller on the line. And after that caller, we're going to talk about whether we should do a part 2 tomorrow at the same time. You know what I'm saying? If you're available, we can go ahead and do it and finish up that way. If you're unavailable, then we can go another route. All right. So caller with the last number is 4600. I want to thank you, first of all, for holding on so long. Welcome to the Urban Therapy with Son show. What's on your mind? Did you have a question or a comment?
Well, yeah, I was looking at your title, and I was interested in listening to the gentleman. But thinking you talking about boarding schools and black people, I'm pro alternative education. But I think when you're looking at the students that's in what we call elite schools in this country, boarding schools, then neighborhood public schools, you're looking at 3 different separate, I guess I can use the word animals or species or fruits. And when you switch back and forth one or another, it kind of discredits one or the other. So we use like boarding schools, there's, of course, you're down about 3 now, but there was one time about 9 black boarding schools in the country. And then you have those elite schools, which, by the way, that the tuition is anywhere from $40,000, $50,000 to $60,000 a year, K through 12, which have a black population in it, and they're unknown, not widely known, and they're not talked about. And the reason why they're in all 3 of those is for a particular reason. So I just wanted to. I can't get into details because you don't have much time, but maybe some other time you revisit the topic.
Okay. Well, you can briefly explain what makes you use the term elite. Is that because of how much it costs or because of what it gives?
Well, what it gives, the academics that comes out of the students that attend the school. You know, if you, I don't know if you know or not, but when you look at your Ivy League schools here in the United States, the black male population are usually Nigerians. They're not native black Americans. And no one looks at, I'm not saying exclusive Nigerians, but a lot of African immigrants, but a lot of Nigerians too. Because when you look at their educational attainment, they have a higher educational attainment, even more so than Asians, who have a higher education attainment more so than whites. So you have to look at those people and see what it is that got them to where they are. And then when you're sitting in that classroom, in that environment, then you have to see what's going on and what they have to bring to the table. Like the gentleman made mention, that the discipline. Well, some of these schools, you gain that discipline at home. You don't come to school to gain discipline. You come to school to be ready to learn and perform. Whereas you see your urban schools, they teaching everything. They got a dress, they got to feed, and they have to discipline, but they can't discipline because, like the gentleman said, in the boarding school, the teachers allowed to inflict corporate punishment. When I went to school, back when I was a kid, our teachers inflicted corporate punishment if they wanted to. To tell you the difference in it, we was in a rifle club. We used to put our rifle over our shoulder and walk to the bus stop, get on the public service bus, and go to school because we had rifle practice after school. Well, to do that nowadays would be totally inappropriate. So there's a lot of ways to look at this topic. I think you have to kind of separate those three areas. There may be more areas, but you definitely it's when you going from urban to like you're on now the boarding school, then you go to what they call elite schools in this country, which generally are private. Those are three different spectrums.
Huh? Okay. Well, I'm thinking if our listeners want to pursue it up on this topic, we have to end it today. Or we'll be going hours.
Yeah, unfortunately, good things come to an end quick.
Right.
But no, think about that because when you're talking about Black Americans, there's a lot in these schools, but you don't hear about it. And it produces a whole different type of student, a whole different type of citizen, should I say. And you don't see these kids out, these young people, once they grow up, you don't see them out in social protest because they understand, probably have more knowledge about what happened or what's going on, and they understand the issue. But those that's out there doing the social protest now don't understand the issue. What is the issue? And whose responsibility is it to solve the issue before you get out in the street and start protesting? And then here you got some out there that's playing opportunists. So that's the way that should be looked at, I think. That's the way I look at it.
Well, there are plenty of ways to, plenty of different ways to interpret the result, the result and the effects of a particular action that may have spawned from something else. So one thing this country is used to is unrest. And another thing that this country is used to, or should be used to, or should easily recognize, is that there will always be with quote unquote democracy comes learning. It comes to different types of understanding. There's always going to be more than one way to think about things, more than one way to solve a problem, and definitely more than one way to interpret the results. So, some of it, well, hold on a second.
You say learning.
Hold on a second. What I'm saying is, when we're talking about Black people, and when we're talking about our culture or lack thereof in some people's minds, or counterculture in other people's minds, when we look at a boarding school education, just such as my brother was talking about, with the camaraderie that he built because of the circumstances that were involved in growing up separate from his family, we have to take that experience into account as a form of a counterculture that is relevant, because as you were starting to speak on with the elite boarding schools that have Black people in them, or that are predominantly Black, we we're producing a different product that has to fit into the existing product. So the way that it's going to fit into the existing product can either make it run better, or it can slow it down, or it can separate itself and make a whole different product that people may want or may not want. But one thing is for sure, whatever the largest concentration is going to exist, and it can't just be ignored. My brother, one of the things that I wanted to talk about before we got out of here was Dr. Umar Johnson went to Scotland school, and I believe he graduated from there. And yeah, and I know that you know him. So I wanted to talk about that. And that's what I'm saying. With us running out of time today, and when people who follow Umar in any way, they know that he's been trying to build a school based on the model of Scotland that he graduated from. And if you can come back tomorrow, we could take a look at that. We could talk about that a little bit more, and whether you agree with what he does and what he's trying to do, and why. So,
okay, that's what's up.
All right. So we'll do it. Let's do it part 2 tomorrow, and go ahead and end this thing up. So the topic that I had for tomorrow, we'll go ahead and switch it back to this for part 2, and we'll go ahead and roll out. Listen, my brother, I appreciate you. You know, I love you to death. Resuscitation, and love you right back to life. But I appreciate you coming on here and giving out this information and providing this content, because it's more than relevant. This was necessary, and so are you. So I'm going to holler at you a little bit later. And tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we go ahead and I'll get you on early so we can make sure that we empty out the box. Is that good for you?
Cool. That's what's up, man.
All right.
Anything for you, son. Let me know.
That's what's up. I mean, anytime people say anything for me, trust and believe I'm going to take unfair advantage of the situation. All right, but what I'm saying is, I'm going to holler at you later. I get with you later, my man.
That's what's up.
All right.
Take it easy.
All right. Appreciate it, mucho. All right,
90
y'all.
seconds.
We have some birthday shout outs to do. Some people were born on this glorious March 6th, and they deserve to be acknowledged. So let's go about our business of acknowledging them and making them feel special, because they are special, because they are special, because they are S-P-E-C-I-A-L. They get the R-E-S-P-E-C-T. They are S-P-E-C-I-A-l. They get the R-E-S-P-E-C-T. They are S-P-E-C-I-A-l. They get the R-E-S-P-E-C-T. They get number 1 out the box, Bowie Collins, turning 48 years old today, and Tracy Reed, turning 40 years old today, and Lovely Ociel, turning 28 years old today, and Verdella Brown, turning 66 years old today, and Tamika Presley, happy birthday to you, and Ciliana Luna de Rivas, turning 26 years old today, and April Kelly, turning 36 years old today, and Veronica White, turning 29 years old today, comedian Tommy Turner, turning 38 years old today, and Kareem Slade, my man Kareem, happy birthday to you. And last but not least, turning 41 years old today,
seconds.
Kimberly Thompson. I want to say happy birthday to all of you and anyone else out there who shares this birthday on this glorious March 6th, anywhere out there in the world, worldwide, internationally, and universally. All of y'all go ahead and turn up. But don't turn up too loud. Just turn up loud enough so everybody can hear you. Rock out. Rock on it, do the damn, to rock out. Rock on it, do the damn, rock out. Rock on it, do the damn thing. You do your thing, y'all. Represent the queens and kings. You do your thing, y'all. Represent the queens and kings. Good things happen to those who wait. Great things happen to those who grind, and anything can happen to those who go for theirs. So go hard, go for yours, and remember, man, black people go to boarding schools. If we didn't learn anything today, we learned that black people go to boarding schools, and they may receive a superior education, or in the very least, they're going to receive a comparable education to those who have gone to good schools, have gotten good training, and have had the type of coaching and tutelage and have gotten the tools for success that will propel them to success, to be successful and for greatness in their adult years as they learn and they grow, and as they have children of their own and try to teach them the same thing. Tomorrow, we're going to do a part 2 of this show. I think we have to. I don't see no way around it. But we will go up. We will go ahead and finish up for part 2 of this series, which is what it now is. I want to thank everybody for coming through and checking out the Urban Therapy with Son show. My man is going to be back. My brother will be back tomorrow, and we're going to talk about Umar and his experience from what we know about going to the Scotland school. And we're also going to talk about group homes in depth. So come back tomorrow at 11 a.m. on the Urban Therapy with Son show. Peace to all my day ones, my everydays, and my brand news. I love y'all to death. Resuscitate y'all and love y'all right back to life. And we gonna get on up out of here. I said we gonna get on up out of here. We will get back. All right, so peace, Blog Talk. Make sure that, hey, yo.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, yo.
Goodbye.
Make sure that y'all hit that like button. The ones of y'all who are left. Make sure that y'all subscribe to the show. Make sure that y'all share the show. And I will, peace to my Instagrammers. And thank y'all for hanging in there to the last waking moment for my YouTubers. Peace, y'all.